You say that you wrestled with this decision for a long time. Was there ever a moment when you were actually thinking, I'm a no?
I was an undecided because I felt that we needed to interview some of the witnesses that Professor Ford said were present that night at which she believes the sexual assault occurred. And I was disturbed that they had not been interviewed by the FBI. Now, the committee staff had interviewed them and gotten very clear statements, so there was no corroboration. But I pushed, along with Senators Jeff Flake and Lisa Murkowski, for the FBI to do an interview of those individuals.
But as you were going through that week, and as you were learning information, and as you were hearing the allegations, was there ever a time when you thought, I can't vote for this guy?
Well, I was certainly undecided, and after hearing Christine Ford's very compelling and painful testimony, I thought, oh my goodness, he perhaps needs to withdraw. But then when he came back with such a forceful denial and the anger and anguish that he showed, and then the lack of corroboration, led me back to the fundamental issues that are fundamental to our legal system, a presumption of innocence and fairness.
And you talked about that in your Senate floor speech. It was 44 minutes long. It was incredibly detailed, very well thought out, not something that was written on the fly after a last-minute decision. And I'm sure you've seen, just as I have, some of your critics are saying that that's proof that you're putting up an appearance of being undecided to placate Democrats and independents that make up the majority in your state of Maine.
Well, nothing could be further from the truth. We have to remember that this hearing unfolded in two parts. In July and August and early September, I was focused on the judge's record, on his position on issues like Roe v. Wade, his judicial philosophy, whether he respected precedent, and that was my focus. So after I'd had a 2-hour interview with the judge and seen the hearings, which were extensive, I felt that I was very likely to vote for him. And we were drafting the statement. And indeed, all that detail in the statement.
So that was done before the allegations.
Then the allegations came forth and put the whole confirmation system in a tailspin. So part of the speech was written prior to the allegations of sexual assault.
So let's talk a little bit more about those allegations. On the Senate floor, you said, quote, "The facts presented do not mean that Professor Ford was not sexually assaulted that night or some other time." But as you remember, Ford was really clear, under oath, under pain of perjury, that she was 100% certain that it was Brett Kavanaugh who sexually assaulted her. So given the decision you made, do you not believe her?
Let me say this. First of all, I found Dr. Ford's testimony to be heart-wrenching, painful, compelling, and I believe that she believes what she testified to. I don't think she was coming forth with a political motive, although I do not think that she was treated well by those who breached her confidence. But we also had a case where Judge Kavanaugh came forward and said, I'm 100% certain that this did not happen. So here you have two people who are each 100% certain of what they're saying under pain of perjury. So then I had to look at the other evidence, and was there corroborating evidence? And that's why I pushed hard for the FBI to do a supplemental background investigation. So
do you still think it is possible that he did it? You just don't have the proof to back that up?
I do not believe that Brett Kavanaugh was her assailant. So I do believe that she was assaulted. I don't know by whom, and I'm not certain when, but I do not believe that he was the assailant.
And so people watching you, hearing you say that, you understand that they'll think that you're saying you don't believe her, that she, I know you say that she believes that he was, but maybe she was wrong. But if she said that under oath and he said that under oath, you made a decision that he said is more valid than what she said.
In this country, we have a presumption of innocence. And as a matter of fairness, what I decided to use as a standard was the question of, is it more likely than not that Brett Kavanaugh assaulted Christine Ford? And there was no corroborating evidence that he did so. Each of the people that Professor Ford said was present that night have testified under oath, both to the committee through the declarations that they submitted and to the FBI now, that they have no memory of this happening. And that includes Dr. Ford's best friend.
So, and I'm sure you've heard this from people who have experienced these assaults, that it is possible, and it has happened before, that the person who is the victim remembers very clearly because they were assaulted. And especially when you're talking about 36 years ago, it's not unusual for people who were apparently at a party as teenagers, they just don't remember it because it was unremarkable. Is that possible?
I really don't think that is possible. When Christine Ford testified that she ran down the stairs and out the door, surely her best friend who was there would have followed her and asked her what was wrong. Nobody's come forward to say, I'm the one who gave you a ride home, or I was the other person at the party. I'm not saying that she was not sexually assaulted. I believe that she was, and that horrible experience has upended her life. But it does not mean that Brett Kavanaugh was her assailant.
So you mentioned, what you just said is also something that you said on the Senate floor, that there was no corroborating witness or somebody to say, I drove her home or I saw her leave. And President Trump said virtually the same thing the other night, that she doesn't remember key details about where the party was and how she got home. You said that when he was talking about that, he was playing wrong. Tell me what the difference is.
Well, I think there's a big difference. Yeah. I felt that the president was not respectful to Dr. Ford. I have always been respectful toward her. I'm the one who pushed for a hearing where she could, once her identity was compromised, which was a terrible thing, and not what she wanted. But once that happened and she was willing to come forward, I said she should be given a hearing. So
it was the president's tone.
It was his tone, but also he's not involved in the advice and consent constitutional duty. Mm-hmm. So I believe he should have said nothing.
One of the major concerns that came up after the hearing was Brett Kavanaugh's temperament. And I want you to listen to what your fellow Republican Lisa Murkowski had to say about that temperament in a floor speech on Friday night.
After the hearing that we all watched last Thursday, it became clear to me, or was becoming clearer, that appearance of impropriety has become unavoidable.
She was giving voice to the fact that Kavanaugh was outwardly partisan, talking about the Clintons in his testimony. Really went after one of your colleagues, Amy Klobuchar, which he apologized for later. But do you have any concerns at all about Brett Kavanaugh's temperament?
Well, I put myself in his shoes. He is coming forth and answering an allegation that includes that he was involved in gang raping and doping girls. I mean, that is so devastating. And I think he reacted with anger and anguish as a father of two young girls, a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. I did believe that he should not have taken the shot at the Clintons, and that in his questioning with certain senators and responding to their questioners, particularly Amy Klobuchar, that he stepped over the line.